This is Cadiz, and it was a major naval base in the Napoleonic period. Well, previous to that as well, the 18th century and 17th century. It goes way, way back. Oldest city in Iberia, so to speak, and if not the oldest continuous city in all of Europe. The Phoenicians came here and they set up a fish market, basically. They're very keen on the local fish, and they were very keen on salting it and all that sort of stuff. But there were other things that they were selling here. But it was a major market place for them, and it remains so until modern day. It's now a holiday resort of some sort. It's also got a lot of naval history attached to it, and well, during the 18th century, a lot of the Spanish scientists and astronomers and mathematicians and all that were all based around here because they were all connected to the Navy and such like. And the Battle of Trafalgar in 1805 seemed to decimate them all. A lot of them went down with the ships. And well, after that, Spain just went into a rapid decline. Its 19th century history is one of continual disaster. It's interesting how the names of the streets around here have so many people who went down with the ships in 1805, and there's even an Irishman in there, O'Reilly, who apparently he put together all the defences around here, and was also at one point governor of Louisiana when it was a Spanish colony. Of course, it was taken over by the French and sold it to the Americans. Dastardly Napoleon. Dastardly French. So, that's it. That's about as much as I know about the place. And what do you know about the place, Helen?
What do I know about Cadiz? Well, in terms of its history, I think Lawrence has summed it up. In terms of what it's like to be in Cadiz, it's really nice here. Although it has lots of really narrow streets, and very confusing ones because it's hard to get a point of reference, they've got these wonderful parks everywhere. So our plan today was just to go and sit in a park and read a book. Something we rarely have time to do as tourists, but this
They apparently have a park full of statues of the various liberators of the Spanish colonies, like Dominican Republic and Venezuela, Puerto Rico, and many more. Oh, and the Philippines. So Jose Rizal up there. So that's interesting, isn't it? Jose Marti. Jose Marti, I guess he's one of the liberators of Cuba. After Granada and Seville, we were suffering from an overload of extravagant gold-encrusted cathedrals. Cadiz, though, was thankfully more subdued. It was built off and on between 1722 and 1838 with money from the trade between America and Spain. See, Seville's river had silted up, and so the trade had gone to Cadiz. And one can find the tombs of playwrights and composers here, not to mention a Roman saint, Santa Victoria, who is on display complete with her head, which apparently got cut off. A wax mask thus covers her face, and I guess that's there to make the display a little less macabre, though I'm not sure it succeeds very well in that. Just getting my 10,000 steps in. Climbing up another cathedral. If only had a skateboard for going down. My phone will be telling me I'm standing in too much noise.
My watch says it's almost 6:30, but it rang 5 times, isn't it? So 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock,
Okay.
mine. Where are we?
Okay. Un momento. Is that Spanish or Italian? Because I'm very confused nowadays. Okay, we're at the Fundación Real Escuela Andaluza del Arte Equestre. So basically, we're going to go and watch an Andalusian horse dance show.
Right,
Yeah.
yes, dancing horses, yeah.
Because
So they play musical instruments.
Yes, they do.
Right,
Because we're here on a Thursday. If
right.
we'd been here on a day other than Thursday, we could have gone and watched the horses in training.
Oh, right.
But because we're here on a Thursday, we get to see a show.
Gracias por sus aplausos. Han sido el mejor estímulo.
Because here in South Spain we have 2 winds, Poniente and Levante. Poniente, fresh and cool because it comes from the Atlantic Ocean. Levante, dry and hot because it comes from the desert in Africa. Which wind you think that we need for the aging of our wine?
We're in Jerez, where not only are there horses, but, well, there's sherry, which might have originated from here, or Shiraz, the Persian city, also famous for wine. Of course, they don't drink sherry the way the British do, as a sort of aperitif handed to the old aunts that might visit at Christmas. They drink it pretty much like wine, though the point of sherry is that it keeps. And it was the British looking for wine that could be transported to the UK without it going off, who made the whole enterprise cost effective. Though I can't say it made it always taste effective. Though we came here for the art, not the booze.
Picasso's life. About Picasso, we have always heard that he started and finished his life painting on ceramics. And here we have a representation of that. These 4 when he was only 8, and the 3 plates from very last part of his life. And also about Picasso, that him, when he was a kid, he painted like an adult. And he was an adult, painted like a kid. There at the back, would anybody recognize it? No Goya.
Not Goya.
El Greco.
I meant.
Yeah, El Greco, right? Very typical of El Greco, very long figures playing with the dark backgrounds and with the colors of the clothes, and always religious things. Do you know what a guardacanton is? Actually, the name of the painting, guardacanton, it means that stone that they put on the corner of the old houses. You know, old houses in the old towns have very narrow streets. So when the cars are turning, usually they tend to damage the corners. So they put a stone to prevent that corner to get damaged. So here, this is only the figurative meaning, because this guy he's leaning on the corner, playing a guardacanton, but he's not protecting the corner. He's only protecting his life. Because he will be leaning on the corner just to check one street or the other, and if someone is coming after him, he will run the other way. So that's why he said guardacanton, because he will always be leaning on a corner. And then here on this side, on the right side, we have a collection of portraits and still life figures. And there at the back, we do have the Goyas.
Wow.
Right side, Charles Ford. Next to him, his wife, Maria Luisa de Parma. Goya was the official painter of the chamber, but he did not like to Photoshop anything. Why am I saying this? Because Maria Luisa de Parma, she had lost all her teeth due to 24 pregnancies, syphilis, and pyorrhea. The poor woman, she got all the tickets to win the lottery. But Goya did not hide that. So when you get closer to her, you will realize that she looks a little bit like that.
Have I mentioned that we were weary of cathedrals? Even so, on seeing Jerez's cathedral, we just had to check it out. It was, well, they began building it in 1695, and they continued building it until 1778. And it was only in 1980, though, that it was elevated into a cathedral. And to carry on the religious theme, it was the history of the Oratorio della Santa Quiva of Cadiz that really intrigued. Here, Haydn's 7 last words of Christ were commissioned and performed. Right, all the painters here done by, is it Goya?
No, 3 of them are Goya.
3 of them are Goya, and 2 Velasquez, or Velasquez. Right, there you go. Goya, Velasquez. There you go. The more I see of all these religious sites, well, they're obsessed with Mary, aren't they? They all look very much like Kuan Yin and all these Chinese gods, and they all look very similar. And this is the chapel of San Philip Neri. Apparently, he had sort of a monastic order where nobody took any vows. They just said they helped the poor. And he was rather friendly with the Jesuits before they became Jesuits, practically. So they had a very similar set of ideas, but didn't go in for all the pomp and circumstances and whatever. He was a happy, jolly chap, apparently. And, well, that's probably, he was obviously too happy, because that's why he surrounded himself with all this death, destruction, misery, people with their feet on the top of people's heads and all that sort of stuff. It's religion, you know. This place wasn't always a church. Well, let's put it this way. It was a church a long, long, long time ago, but in 1812, they took out all the pews and so on and covered up all the chapels at the side and turned it into a parliament. So it was the 1812 parliament. Part of the, well, during the Napoleonic Wars, this was the War of Independence, and this is where they declared their independence from everywhere. And they set up a constitutional monarchy And the Parliament here, of course, most of the people that were representatives were priests, so, you know, one true religion and all that. But it was, well, you know, they had free press. Of course, you couldn't say anything in there without getting into trouble, but, you know, it was free. Can't help feeling that he looks somewhat like Robert De Niro. That's enough religious stuff. Well, the sun is warm, but the sea is cold. And I went swimming. And as I looked around, I noticed I was 50 years older than everybody else in the sea, at least. Come to think about it, I'm just looking around this beach and thinking probably I'm 50 years older than anybody on the beach. That's a sobering thought. Anyway, yeah, and doing the beach thing. Need to do a bit more, I think. Anyway, that's what we're doing today. Tomorrow, off to Cordoba.